All right, what's up, everybody? Today we're going to be building this cabinet, and what it is a semi-outdoor mini fridge cabinet. And what I mean by semi-outdoor is that it's going to be on a covered back porch, basically. So not completely in the elements, but enough to need some extra durability. It's got a sliding barn door, as you can see, for some storage. And of course, this over here is the space for the mini fridge. So if you want to see how I built it, stick around and check it out. I did a dry run of this railing system here for the door, I noticed that the wheel on the rail, this wheel right here, it was not clearing the top that would go on here. The wheel would have hit it. So what I have to do, I got the hole as low as I'm willing to go with it. So what I'm going to do is add 2 layers of this material just to bump the top up just enough so that wheel can slide back and forth and clear it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm pinning it. I'm gluing it first and then pinning it. Okay, so I just finished drilling all the pocket holes. There's 2 in each end of the board and then 4 along the length of each board. So this is the bottom of what's going to be the top of the cabinet. And I just wanted to fill you in on what I did off camera. First of all, I cut these to size to match the size that I'm making. And the other thing I did was I rounded off the ends, top and bottom of the breadboard ends. And then with the slats, I didn't round this. This is the fresh cut, but the side that's going to be facing up, I did round it off to match the round over that comes with these 2x6s. So that way everything looks uniform. if you just saw me glue and screw this whole thing up, this is not a rewind. Actually, I had to unscrew it, rip it all up because I just wasn't liking it. The joints were not really coming together like they should. I saw some gaps, and they weren't going very flush on top of that. So since this is for a client, this isn't game time anymore. It's time to do this right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to joint or kind of fake joint each one of these boards to make sure they come together better. You can see where I put the glue on, it's got good coverage. But then on the board adjoining it, it does not have the best coverage. This one's actually okay, but look at this one. Hardly any connection at all with those pocket hole screws. They were not clamping hardly at all. So pocket holes are kind of dumb for this kind of thing. A lot of people do them, but in order to use them, these boards have to be jointed a lot better than this so that they connect better. It's just a lesson learned. Hopefully what I got going on will work better. Okay, so here's what I got going on. I don't have a joiner, so in order to kind of fake the joining process of getting this edge straight, I have to use a straight edge on my fence. And what that's going to do is when I put my board into the saw, I'm going to move the straight edge with the board. And I've seen this done a million times, but I've never done it before. But I'm trying to get into the big leagues here, so this is what I'm going to try out. It's going to go with the board and keep it straight. Cut a straight edge on here. This one's already done. I'm going to get a different board now. So I ended up clamping this in two sections. I have the 3 boards here and the 2 boards here. And I put the pocket hole screws in after it was clamped. So the issue really isn't the fasteners. Like I have the pocket holes here, and the previous tops that I've made in the past were done with biscuits. The bigger issue is actually the clamps that I have. What I need is bar clamps that will clamp the whole thing together, and then the fasteners are really just superficial. If you can clamp it really good with a good glue contact, then that's the ultimate thing that's going to keep it together. The biggest clamps I have right now are 20 inches. So I think the first thing I'm going to buy when I sell this project is going to have to be some bar clamps. All right, so here's what we got on the final glue up. I think it's adequate. It's not super professional, but it'll get the job done. I had to combine 2 clamps in order to get some clamping pressure, but that made it want to bow up a little bit. So when I screwed in the breadboard ends, I made sure to clamp all 4 corners to make sure that the whole thing doesn't want to bow up. And everything's fastened, so now we're just gonna, I put extra glue. I put glue on both sides of the joint this time to hopefully improve the connection. So we'll see how it goes. It should be perfectly fine. I mean, once it's attached to the top of this thing, everything should be solid. I just, in the future, I'm gonna improve my methods and be less stressed out about it. I'm probably going to end up putting about at least 3 coats of polyurethane on here too. The burning technique improves the weather resistance of the wood, and the poly should take it over the top. Alright, so I got it all glued up, and what I'm running into now is I got a little bit of a hangover here. When I guess when I was trimming these ends, it took some space off of it, so I need to trim that up. And the way I'm going to do it is I use my little straight edge here, which is a jig for my circular saw. If I clamp it down right along this edge, I can trim off the edge that's hanging over, and that's what I'm going to do. Alright, you see I had to adjust that a little bit to get it flush. It's supposed to be flush with the edge of this board right here. The problem is I think my jig has come apart recently and it didn't get put back together the way it used to be, so it's not operating right. So I gotta make another one of these jigs because this one is unreliable. Alright, so I didn't make another jig, but I do have a smaller version of the same jig that's designed specifically for my circular saw. This one has not come apart, so it should work. Now that one works perfectly. It cuts right along the edge of the MDF, so great. Alright, now I just have to round these over again. I had them rounded over before, now they're sharp again, so I gotta round them over again. Very important, if you use this wood filler to fill in any cracks that might be lingering on the project, that you wipe off the excess with a wet cloth, because when you get to the staining process you don't want a lot of that wood filler showing, because it's not going to stain the same way and it'll show up when it's stained. You might not show up very well unstained, but the stain, it will show up. So wipe it off so the wood filler is only in the cracks and not on the surface of the wood. Alright, so this is some pre-stain wood conditioner. I'm going to put this on. You're supposed to let it sit for 15 minutes, then wipe off the excess, and then apply the stain within 2 hours. So whatever that means, I guess if you wait maybe an hour, it'll set in good, so it'll take the stain well. But if you wait longer than 2 hours, then it might dry up and not do anything. So somewhere within 2 hours after we put it on. So let's put it on. So I forgot to film the staining process, but yeah, this is what it looks like. Maybe I can get a side-by-side up in the video so you can see any contrast that might show up, but it looks a lot better with this golden oak stain on, so I like it. I'm using water-based polyurethane. So since this is going to be a semi-outdoor project, I'd say I'm going to use maybe 4 or 5 coats of this stuff. If it's indoor, I'd say 3 should be fine, but I'm going to make sure I put a nice solid layer. Water-based polyurethane I like to use. It dries faster between layers, but it requires more layers than an oil-based would. Plus it dries clearer and doesn't have a yellowy brown tint to it when it dries like the oil-based would. So here's the thing about this angle that I have to cut to go with the door is it's about, I'm going to put the speed square on the line, it's about 50 degrees right here. And of course this miter saw is only going to cut about barely over 45 degrees. So you can see the laser line just doesn't want to cut 50 degrees. But luckily, since I have a line, all I have to do is move it so the laser matches up with that line, and then I can go ahead and cut it. No. Okay, I just moved my rail up a little bit because it was hitting the bottom. Let's try it again. See my rail right there? There's one of these things is screwed in there, and then this catches it. Alright, coming down to the home stretch. I got these Rockler tabletop fasteners. They get installed into the perimeter of the base so you can attach the tabletop to it, but you need a slot for this part to go into. So I am going to use my biscuit joiner to make those slots. I'm going to slide them in and then screw them to the top. Oh, by the way, these are good because they allow for expansion and contraction of the wood, especially since this is going to be outside. It really needs that ability to expand and contract. Alright, I take all those slots and I slide these right in the biscuit slots. And the other side screws to the top. So now that I made the effort to get this centered on the top, I don't want it sliding around on me and messing it up. So I am going to clamp it down. So while I'm screwing it on, it won't move. Alright, it's pretty tight in here, but I'm going to try to show you. So you just take those little fasteners, and then you drop it everywhere, and this is probably not going to be very easy. I'm going to try to do it one more time, and then I'll probably just do it without the camera. I think you know how the screws go in. If I put the screw in the right direction. Made some other ones fall. I got one in. I'm not going to lie to you. That was a major suckathon in order to get all those things screwed in upside down. Everything kept falling, as you can imagine. But the other option, well, the only other option that I had was to flip it upside down and do it that way. But this thing weighs like 1,000,000 pounds. So that would be a major suckathon as well. So, I don't know, I guess it's Robert Frost that said if two roads both lead to major suckathons, then take the one that sucks less. I think that's what he said. So if you're wondering why I left this hole back here, it's actually pretty simple. When somebody needs to move this, which is probably what I'm going to have to do pretty soon, you're going to want a place to put your hand on this side and the other side. So I made sure I put a place to put my hand so I can carry it, because I don't want to pull on this top, because I don't want to. And I made a plug right here that fits in super snug. So once it's in place, you just pop that plug in there, and everything will be fine. All right, so that is the whole build. Well, almost the whole build. I still plan on putting a shelf in here about halfway up, so that's going to leave some more space for storage and things like that. But overall, I really like this. I think the client's going to like it. This is something that he wanted, and I said I could do. And he wanted a mini fridge on his covered back deck, and he's going to put a mini fridge in here. He gave me the dimensions for that, so hopefully it'll fit in here based on the dimensions that he gave me. But I'm really happy with this. It is probably one of the biggest builds that I've had on my YouTube channel. This is my first time putting in one of these barn door rails, which I had a pretty good time doing. I think I'm going to use these more often in the future, maybe even look into making some of my own instead of buying these prefabs, which are a little bit pricey, not too bad. But besides that, I hope you guys liked watching this build. I enjoyed building it. Hope you guys are inspired to make something on your own by watching channels like this. And until next time, don't be afraid to be a dupes.